Let's get to Tesla here. The stock soaring 4% today on the back of the GM charging network deal. The EV maker locking in 11 straight days of gains, tying its longest ever winning streak. Last week, the Chartmaster said that Tesla was still heading higher. It is now up more than 21% since that call. So is Carter going to say to stay long? Carter, what do you say?
I mean, gosh, who knows? But my hunch is to take some measures. It's not just because it's up 11 sessions in a row. It's up a lot. There's been price discovery, if you will. It's also news related with this sort of joint venture thing going on, or at least collaboration with Ford and GM. But also today, with the gap gapped up at the open, that means there's an unusual buying pressure. Used to be called a late open, of course. We don't have those anymore. But the stock faded and didn't close all that well. So I think it's up maybe a bit ahead of itself. My hunch is to write some calls, to trim, to take some measures. We have two charts. Let's look at them, if you'd like. The first is, perchance, we've retraced, remarkably, exactly half of the peak to trough sell-off. We know that it was $415 at the high, $100 at the low, and here we are at $244, halfway back. The second chart of two, I just try to depict the downtrend line in effect since the high. Does it have to stop on that line? Of course not, but I think you trim.
All right, Carter, thank you. We will see you in just a few minutes on options action. Steve, you took extreme measures when it came to your Tesla position.
I did. So originally, when he had that chart up around $100, I bought my first leg at 105, sold it in the 190s, bought it back above 200, bought it again as it dipped below, and then he alluded to it, or he said it. 11 straight up days. I think the future is extremely bright for Tesla going forward. I think that they have a monopoly in multiple areas within the EV networks, and I just want to see it. I want to see it like the overall market. I want to see it come back in a little bit, give me a better entry point. Took my chips off the table. We'll see.
The optimism surrounding the charging network deals with Ford and GM is it's tremendous. I mean, Piper had an interesting note saying that Tesla could earn as much as $3 billion over the next 7 years from these agreements. Bono, and I mean, if you liked Apple services revenues, maybe this is sort of the beginning of something like that.
I mean, that you hit the nail on the head. Definitely speaks to recurring revenue, which you definitely like. I think really, the question is about momentum and short-term trading activity. And to the other two previous panelists' point, I just think it's a bit overstretched here. With that said, Tesla just seems to have a mind of its own. This stock could go up another 20%, 30% from this, and I don't think any of us would be surprised. So I think I'm with Carter in that, not that I would be just shorting it here, but if I've already been in, Steve said he's in, he has about a $105 cost basis. If I am in there, I'm definitely writing calls if I don't want to sell outright, but I'd probably be taking some cash and looking to deploy it elsewhere.
Yeah, you sold that 105 tranche at 190.
Yes, yes. And just to be clear, I'm out of the name right now. I want to take a look and see how it reacts next week.
Yeah, Guy, next move, higher or lower for Tesla?
You look at Carter's charts. I mean, 50% retracement 1, right up against the downtrend line 2, and we've been in this downtrend for a few years now. It's a pretty significant one. The bounce has been historic. But, I mean, the trade that Steve just put on is fantastic. I mean, wait for a better entry point. I don't think this is the entry point to get long.
GM was a winner in all of this too, Courtney, by the way, and Ford when it announced its agreement with Tesla.
GM and Ford, yeah, which I think that's the kind of the bigger picture story with this is the batteries really are not as big of a high margin business for Tesla, but it's really going to help people get more into the EV space because you're still not seeing a majority of car ownerships go into EVs. But if it's a lot easier where people can drive for longer, it's easier to get charging stations. It's really going to benefit everyone involved. So it's kind of a beneficiary for everyone.